Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody to MM Publications webinar series. My name is Greg Soteropoulos. It is so very nice to see you all back here again. For those of you joining us for a second, third, and maybe even fourth time, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. If you can hear me, please write in the question box located on your dashboard where you are tuning in from. This way I can get an idea from where you are around the world, if you can hear me. So we have Malaysia, Pakistan, Thailand, Crete, Egypt, Thailand, Bangkok, Cairo. I love it. Every time that I ask this question and I see all of your answers, the multiculturalism that's in the audience is amazing, and I really appreciate that. From Naxos, welcome. Philippines, Nafplio, Bangkok, Cambodia, Thailand. Excellent, wonderful. So in today's webinar, what we are going to explore is the triangular relationship in education. Now, some of the things I'm going to talk about may seem very elementary, okay, very obvious. Some things may be even a little silly, but every little piece of the puzzle when it comes to education matters regarding the effectiveness of the interactions that we have with our students. In this triangular relationship that we have in education, there are three main parties involved, and that is we, the teachers, the educators, our students, or as I like to call them, our future global agents of change. And then there are the parents or the guardians. Now, this relationship in education has been shifted drastically throughout this quarantine period. We have always had a problem, quote unquote, and I say this respectively as I'm a parent of two children myself. We've always had this issue or this problem with regards of parents being more involved with their children's education, okay, especially with English when it comes to the English language. During Rona-19 and this social distancing and this quarantine learning that we had, we saw that the parents' role changed in this relationship. Now, how many of you, just out of curiosity, I want you typing in the question box, how many of you have seen during these couple of months with online learning that parents became more involved in their children's education? Now, when I say more involved, I'm not saying in a positive way or in a negative way. Generally speaking, how many of you seen parents become more involved? If you could just write it in the question box, please. How many of you saw this while teaching? Because I know for a fact I was involved in my son's learning. He's in first grade. He's 6.5. My daughter, who's 12, I wasn't involved at all practically. So how many of you saw that? So they are involved, okay. They're more involved, correct? So, okay, excellent. So many of you have seen that parents became more involved. Now, the next question is, were they involved in an effective manner or an ineffective manner? Because in this triangular relationship, we as teachers tried to figure out what we can do to teach our future global agents of change. How can we teach them during this quarantine period? Our students then turned to their parents because they were with them 24/7. And they were telling their parents, I don't want to do this. This isn't school. I want to go and play Fortnite. I want to go and play with my friends. And so they also asked their parents, when can I go out? When is this going to stop? What is going on? The parents were going through their own problems because they had to work from home. Some parents lost their jobs. They had a decrease in salary. So their routines and their habits, as we spoke about in the other webinar, changed drastically. But then what happened with the parents and us? Parents turned around and started telling us, why are you teaching this way? When are you going to start completing the lessons faster? Why are you teaching in this other manner? My child isn't learning the way they should. And they were putting a lot of pressure on us. And why was this happening? Because we were exposed. You see, in the face-to-face teaching, the students come to us in the comfort of our classroom, and we teach throughout the day without any problems regarding parents' intervention. Now during quarantine, and correct me if I'm wrong, parents were getting involved in a manner that was disrupting that interaction with our students. They may have thought that they were trying to help, but in essence, they were distracting them. So let's look a little bit ahead. Let's look proactively. Our future global agents of change in phase 3 of Rona 19, right? When they're going to start going back to school, they're going to need us more than ever before, because they have had enough in their homes with their parents. I'm telling you this firsthand, okay? My kids went back to school 2 weeks ago. When my son found out that the next day was actually school, he got up in the morning by himself, was ready to rock and roll. And I just looked at him and I was like, you're a different child from the past 3 months. So they're gonna need you, okay? So much more than you ever thought, because of this time that they have experienced with quarantine. This is also a time that we have to take that extra step and connect with the parents. We need to start to engage them more to bring them into this relationship. Because as soon as their children start going back to school, they're going to put their hands up and say, now they're yours. Take them. Okay, I'm done, finished. I'm exhausted. Parents also need to start playing more of a role with their kids after quarantine. They cannot give up and make excuses. Okay, so as you can see, this triangular relationship becomes 360 in both directions. Okay, so let's take a look at each angle, shall we? How can we engage our future global agents of change? The very first suggestion may seem very, very elementary, but you must have a comfortable working environment. Just as you have your desk in your classroom with all of your things and you're comfortable in your class, you need to have the exact same thing at your house. Teaching for 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. How many hours are you teaching? Can you write it down in the question box? How many hours are you teaching every week? Every week, on average, how many hours are you teaching? Because it plays a role. 18 hours a week teaching online, right? That's 25 hours a week online in front of a computer, sitting for that long. So I think it's pretty logical and obvious that we have to have a comfortable working environment. Where is that environment that you are teaching from? Because let's be honest, this is probably going to happen again. We're going to go to a phase 3 where we go back to face-to-face, and then now that they saw that we can do this, they're going to turn to this again and say, oh, there's an influx in cases, let's do some homeschooling. online learning classes again. So do you have an office? If you have an office, that's great. But if you don't have one, where do you teach? I do my webinars in two places, depending on my kid's schedule. I'm in the living room. Why am I in the living room? Because I need open space, because it reminds me of a class. I can't be in a small confined space, right? I need a place that has natural light. I need a place that has a comfortable seat, because our seat is like a throne. All right, we're going to be sitting for so long, you have to be comfortable. The height of your table, the camera angle, everything, the background of where you're teaching. All of these are so important. Also, not just because you need to be comfortable, but to engage your students in a more effective manner. And when you're teaching, you have to be very, very, very conscious about your distractions, because I have seen and I have heard that teachers teach and there's distractions of the phone ringing. They don't take their phones off the hook. Their cell phones, their children, their pets. There are distractions, but these distractions, especially for primary students, is an excuse, an opportunity to get, oh, what was that, miss? What was that? No, oh, what's that? Who's calling you? And to distract the lesson. Now, before I continue, I'd like to ask you all a question. In this slide that you're looking at right now, have I made a mistake somewhere? Can you help me out? Because I think I did, but I'm not sure. Can you all help me out for a moment? Because, you know, I am a teacher. I do make mistakes because I'm human. Making mistakes is okay, correct? That's how we learn. Can you tell me what's the right? Can you correct me? I don't mind being corrected. Just because I'm the presenter doesn't mean that I can't be corrected, right? You can correct me. What's wrong? Come on. How many are we here? Let me see. Hold on a minute. Come on. We're almost 100 strong. Come on, guys. 100 people. Help me out. Is there something wrong with something that I wrote on this slide? Can you catch the mistake? Can you fix my mistake? Some people have it. I'm not going to say it yet because I want to see if some other people are going to, yeah, the stool is too tall. Well, yes, that's a good observation. But it's actually on the right side of the slide. I should be more specific. It's something that I wrote. Games of Thrones, the series Games of Thrones. So, very good. The word throne, Thrown. Okay, it should be ONE, correct? Why did I do this? Because this is what you should do. You should throw in a mistake here and there in your presentations if you have them with your students. And then as you're teaching, you just say, oh, guys, can I ask you a question? And just play it out like what I did, but really play it out. And explain to them what I just explained, that, you know, I make mistakes. I know I'm a teacher, but teachers make mistakes too. It's okay to make mistakes. So you're teaching them a lesson. Okay. So do this, and it keeps them engaged, because the next time you ask that question, they're going to be wanting to search that slide to see where you made the mistake. Okay. Internet. We always talk about internet and that we're the wired generation, that everybody's connected, right? Both adults and children alike. So they will pay attention most of the time to spot the mistake. Yes, but that's good, because that means that they will be focusing and reading while you're speaking, or observing your slide. And then when they see that there's no mistake, okay, but you can also tell them, I will tell you when there could be a mistake. This way they don't stay too focused on that. Okay, but that's a good point. Internet. When we teach our students, we need to be very respectful to the fact that some of our students may not have the advantages of others. they may not have the advantage of the proper internet in order for them to learn online. Um, this is why it's so important to have that connection with parents. Okay. You see, if you have a problem when you're doing an online class, what is your plan B? What do you do if the platform crashes? What do you do if your camera goes off? What do you do if the mic doesn't work? How do you keep them engaged? In one webinar that I was excuse me, conducting, all of a sudden, people couldn't see me and people couldn't hear me. And they were writing it to me. So what I had to do was send a message to them and say, okay, everybody log out. Everyone got out. I got out, got back in. Everybody got back in. I checked the attendance. A few people didn't come back. The number dropped. Now, what would happen with our students if we did this? What would happen with our students if we had to tell them to log out and come back on again? Do you think some of the students would use that as an excuse to play hooky and not come back? Maybe, maybe. But you always have to be prepared and to be ready of what you can do. A plan B would be what? If the platform doesn't work, is there any other way that you can communicate with them? Is there any other type of secondary platform that you can use? Any app that you can use to have it as a standby? These are things we need to think about. And again, the students, when they don't have the proper internet, that could be one of the reasons why they're not with you, not because they don't want to be. All right, so we have to keep that in mind. Now, again, something very basic, using a camera. So when teaching online, when presenting online, I'll tell you a personal story. I've never done webinars before. Before 3 months ago, I've never done a webinar. So when I did some mock presentations before doing the live ones with my colleagues, they were looking at me and writing to me and saying, Greg, what are you doing? I'm used to standing in front of a crowd of, I don't know, 500, 400, 1,000, 2,000 people doing plenaries, workshops, motivational speeches to students in auditoriums. But now I'm talking in a box, looking at a light. I feel kind of trapped, like I can't do anything else outside of this. So how do we use our camera? Why should we use our camera? Because this is your stage. You are the actor, you are the actress. You are the ones who are going to engage your students and attract them. Okay, this is the only means you have with online learning. Yes, you can show them the videos and the interactive whiteboards and attract them that way, but they want someone to keep them engaged, and that's us. So have your camera on all the time. But before we get on to the more suggestions that I want to offer you, the platform you're using, please, I implore you to use tutorials and learn as much as you can regarding the platforms you're using. The breakout rooms, the tools, the dashboard, how to use everything. So this way you can make your lessons a lot more exciting and fun rather than mundane and boring day in and day out. And again, I'm saying this and I'm suggesting this because of what I've seen and what I've heard from other students and other teachers around the world, that sometimes we just don't feel comfortable working outside of our comfort zone. But the only way you can feel more comfortable is if you educate yourself and develop yourself in how to use those tools. Have a permanent way to always communicate with your students. If it's email, keep it as email. If it's WhatsApp, if it's Viber, if it's your school platform, keep it constant. Students need their routines and habits. These routines and habits shouldn't change. So keep this as a routine, the way you communicate with them. Now, we have the mics and we have the cameras, and we have monitoring the status of our students with the sidebar. I want to talk about the mics and the cameras. Depending on the age of your student, and of course, where you're tuning in from, what region you're from, okay, what country you're from. For primary students, the mic should always be off. Cameras always should be on, so you can see what they're doing. The reverse goes for the older students. For the older students, cameras, because you can't make it mandatory, cameras could be on if they want, but if they want them off, we can't do anything about that. The mics, though, for the older students, should always be on. And what we do here is, for the primary, we are observing their nonverbal body language. When we want them to say something, we turn on their mic, or if they want to answer, they learn how to turn on their own mic and raise their hand. But the difference is, with the older kids, what we do is we do cold calling. Cold calling is usually done in universities, where they tell the students to go into study, and then when they come into class, the teacher randomly chooses a student to answer a question based on what they read. The same principle acts with the teenagers and the young adults that are our students. If you can do this based on the country you're living in, the regions, when you ask a student to answer a question and their mic is on, they have to turn on their camera only while answering. That gives them a 3-second to a 5-second window to get ready, to turn on their camera and to answer the question and then turn it off. What does this do for our students? This forces our students, first, to be near the computer. Second, they can't be doing other things because the mic is on. Third, they never know when they're going to be asked a question, so they have to be ready to turn it on and to answer and to be ready for that. But Greg, how do we monitor this and make this an incentive for them to participate? Well, with online learning, I've found that some teachers were able to do the following. They give them participation grade, and this participation grade isn't that they start at 0 and get points. Everybody starts at 10. Throughout the week, you're going to call on every student at least once or twice. At least twice. Okay, definitely once. And so if they answer correctly, and if they're there, that 10-point scale stays at 10. But if they're not, it drops. And it drops and it drops. Now, you can give them the second chance throughout the week, and if they are there and they answer correctly, it goes up a point. So you can use this as a suggestion of how to do that, okay? Fashionistas, to be or not to be, drinking your coffee, it's okay. Another thing with online learning that I found really changes a teacher's attitude is that the way they dress. And having coffee or having something to drink while you're teaching, it's not wrong to do that, to keep hydrated. You should even encourage your students, and they must always have water with them or juice. Because how many times have you been teaching and your students say, "Miss, can I go get a glass of water? Miss, can I go?" Miss, just have it there so they are kept hydrated, okay? And it's less of a distraction. Create a detailed lesson plan. Very simply put, you must always have a quick recap of what you did yesterday with your students. In giving instructions, how many of you feel that when you give instructions, directions, rubrics through quarantine learning, that it's more difficult, that students don't understand as easily as they do with face-to-face learning? This is a question I want to ask all of you. Do you find that there is a difference when giving instructions with online learning rather than face-to-face? I just want to see if this is true throughout different countries with teachers' experiences. When you give instructions to students, type in the question box and just tell me, Is it more difficult for students to understand what you're saying and have the lesson understood, or is it easier with face-to-face? Because what I've seen is that with online learning, the instructions have to be kept a lot more simple. Keywords have to be used more regularly. We tend to teach facts instead of concepts. There's more rote learning now rather than higher order learning and higher order thinking skills. You see, guys, when you are explaining something to a student online, you have to keep this in mind, that when preparing for your lesson, you need to give windows for questions to be asked by your students. When we teach online, sometimes we get into the groove and we talk too much, we give too much, and students are not able to take the time to conceptualize what they're learning. Okay, absolutely. Speaking slowly and having students paraphrase what we say or what we ask of them is very, very important. Mary, I totally agree with you. When I say introduce concepts, not facts, this is what I mean. Okay, let's take music, for example. When listening to music, okay, there's two ways of listening to music. One is listening to music and remembering the words, listening for the words. And the other way is listening to music, understanding the words so you can get the meaning of the song. Now, my daughter has a gift. She can listen to music and lyrics, and within the second or third time, she knows all the words. I can't do that. I can't remember the words. So she laughs at me and she says, "See, you don't know the song." And I go, "Well, how about you tell me the meaning of the song?" And she says to me, "What?" And I go, "Tell me the meaning of the song. What does it mean? What do those words mean? What are they trying to express?" She can't do it. So I said, "So what's more important, to know the words of the song or to understand the meaning of the song?" So what we're doing is we are telling the how of English rather than showing the how of English, and allowing the students to show us what should be learned. And we should just give them the seed and have them work with it. So what I'm saying is, let's take grammar, for example. We just taught present simple. And then students right away are able to learn present continuous and then to find the differences with activities. Which one is present simple, which one is present continuous, based on some rules. So it's basically deductive versus inductive approach. What I would do, or what I would suggest, is that give them, because they've already done present simple, give them an example of present simple and then an example of present continuous with this in the same context. And then have them go into breakout rooms and have them discuss the differences. Have them discuss the why and the how they're different. And to show it when they come back to class and to explain it to the rest of the class. Okay. I'm just reading some comments from you guys. Yes. Stronger students prevail, weaker or shy students get lost. What's happening here is give them a chance to ask whenever they need, and it gets out of control. They keep interrupting. That's true. That's why, though, we should give the rule of when you ask a question to students, and students are going to answer, there's the 10-second rule. The 10-second rule, number one, is it gives the lower performing students time to think of an answer, because the higher performing students always answer first, and then it shuts them out. They feel like they don't have to answer. So that's the first thing. And that also helps with face-to-face learning. It's the 10-second rule. So You ask a question, no one is allowed to answer, no one is allowed to raise their hands for 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a very, very long time. So you're giving the lower performing students and average students time to think of their answer. You are observing their nonverbal body language. They may be too shy to answer, but if you see it in their eyes that they know it, then you ask them to answer. And again, you're reinforcing that we make mistakes. I don't care how you say it. I'm not judging you on, your if you speak like a native speaker or not. You have to make them feel comfortable. Okay. Having students ask questions on something you said, again, you're giving them the window to ask a question. Usually when one student asks a question, 3 other or 4 other students have the same question in their mind. Okay. Again, with lesson plans, please prepare students on what they should bring tomorrow. That's why it's so important to have agendas for your students and monthly planners, as we said in the other webinar. Okay. Motivation for students, connect with them regularly. Now, this is something that I definitely suggest, and this is something that has been done already, and I know it works because teachers have sent me messages and they've told me that it's unbelievable the difference in taking the time out to call your students apart from delivering your own lesson, offering one-on-one time, play dates. Now you're going to say, Greg, you know how many students I teach? 24, 25 hours a week, 18 hours a week. That's a lot. I have a lot of students. Understood. I respect that. I totally get you. But, this is a big but. Our students had this closeness with us at school, from the studio, at the institution that you're teaching in. So, they've been missing this for 3 months. They need that one-on-one time with you. So you need to check your weekly planner and your agendas and say, okay, I need to prioritize which students need me to reach out to them. Which students do I feel? My intuition, my gut is telling me I need to be there for them a little bit more. Not necessarily academically, maybe just the chit chat to see how they are, their well-being. All right. And offer that one-on-one time with them. If they need some help academically, that too will help by giving that one-on-one. This all plays with their social, emotional health and well-being. Motivation is crucial during this time of quarantine, and to be sure that we are meeting their needs, because a lot of our students' needs that have been met in school are not being met now at home. So when they come back to you, because we're always thinking proactively, when they come back to school, which my kids are going back to school, which in Greece, some kids are going back to Procrastination and to some other schools. Around the world, I know some kids have already started going back to school. But we have to think about that when they do go back, yes, they're going to need a review, definitely. They're going to need a checkup, definitely, academically, okay, content-wise. But first and foremost, we have to see, are they okay social-emotionally? Are they okay with their well-being? Because all they're going to want to do is come and see you and hug you and just want to hang out, because that's what they've missed, okay? That's what they've missed. You think they've been doing it with their social media and all that. It's not the same, okay? So what does this mean, teachers? We have to work collaboratively. We have to talk with one another. We have to find solutions. We have to give each other suggestions on how we can meet these needs. It may be difficult with online learning, but we can at least start to prepare for when they come back, okay? These needs, what are they? The social emotional needs of student are mind, body, and spirit. And there's one more, which I will talk about because it has more to do with parents. When we are teaching our students online with English, when they start coming back to school, the first thing that I put for mind was reading and listening. And why did I put reading and listening? Because this is something that should be done a lot more during quarantine. Reading out loud, having your students read aloud. The two pillars of the English language are what, ladies and gentlemen? What are the two pillars of the English language? Can you please write it down in the question box? What are the two pillars of the English language? In any language for that matter, what are the two pillars? Is everybody with me? Yes, okay. Come on, I want to see that question box flying up. The two pillars of the English language. So we have reading and writing, reading and listening, listening and speaking, reading and writing. The two pillars, guys. What am I doing right now? What am I doing right now? I'm speaking. What are you doing right now? You are listening to me. The two pillars are speaking and listening, the communicative approach. And the macro skill, because there are two macro skills, okay? The macro skill that bridges these two pillars are reading. Because when you read, especially out loud, you're speaking and you're listening. And if you're doing it to yourself, you're actually listening to yourself speak. Okay. So, in reading and listening, what I want students to do is to take time out in their agendas and to do more of it. Puzzles, writing a journal, as I have suggested with you with your CPD on why we teach the way we do in writing a journal, every single day to write in your journal. Students have started to do this. And it's unbelievable how my son is in first grade. At the beginning, he didn't quite understand it. He wasn't doing it every day. So I was like, that's okay. But then little by little, he started to do it more. And what do I mean by more? More consistent every day. And then I saw that in his journal, the amount that he's been writing has been increasing. And that's really interesting because kids have a lot to say and they're thinking about a lot and they're feeling a lot during quarantine and they need to get it out and they don't know how to do it. A journal. Counting money, drawing a map of their neighborhood during quarantine, Legos, creativity throughout all of these suggestions. The body, dancing, exercising, yoga, stretching, fine and gross motor activities through TPR, total physical response, getting your kids up and moving around. How can we do that? How can we get your students up and moving around in online teaching? How can we do it? Have you guys done that before? Have you, any of you, you're over 100 people, have any of you done, conducted, dance, exercise, yoga, stretching, TPR activities with your students during quarantine? I'm asking, have any of you done this? Now don't tell me, well, they're teenagers, they can't. They're too mature for that. Have any of you done that? And then you're going to say to me, well, we can't, Greg. We can't do that because, wait a minute. We can't do that because we can't move around. You can't move around. Are you serious? You mean to tell me that if you have a laptop, you can't take your laptop and walk around and put it farther away and to do a class with your students? You mean to tell me that you cannot do a Simon Says or Greg Says lesson with your students in which you take your students and you get them up from their seats and they move around with you? It's thinking outside the box. It's doing things that will get your students excited. It's doing fun activities with your students. Spirit, music, singing, creative arts and crafts, imaginative play, even meditation. Have we done any of this during quarantine? Yes, we can do this in our classroom, but have we ever explored how to do it, why to do it through online learning? If you don't try, how do you know if it's going to work or not? If you fail, that's okay. Fail again, fail better. That's what we're supposed to do, guys. That's our job as teachers. Make things interesting, make things fun. Think outside the box. In doing so, this concept of why we teach the way we do with the other webinar comes into play. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. In your authentic teaching, you have to be able, though, to say to yourself, yes, I have my strengths, I have my limitations. This is a limitation. This was a limitation for me. Okay, I am your example. I was horrible at doing webinars at the beginning. Thankfully for my colleagues, they gave me constructive criticism. I practiced, I broke out of my shell, and I said, you know what? The first couple may not be the way they're supposed to be. As I keep doing it, I'll keep getting better. Now, I have other ideas for webinars of how I would want to do it, but I can't because I have the limitations I have are structurally where I am here. But got to be authentic. In your authenticity, I want you to please make sure, because I met some of you I haven't met, but I will. Somewhere in the near future, I'm sure that I will. We all have a distinct shade of color. It's that light, that energy that resonates when we teach. No one else has it. I have my own. You don't have mine. I don't have yours. That's what makes us unique and authentic. Please don't fall into the trap and start being like everybody else, just like this GIF shows. All right. I know quarantine has been hard for us. I know that we've been under a lot of pressure. I know that we have been under the microscope. I know that we've had the fingers pointed at us. It's okay. This is just temporary. All right. It's just temporary. So our future global agents of change, what are they going to do? What do they have to do right now? What are we going to do to help them? All right. As I said with us, internet connection, you have to talk with their parents and see what's going on. All right. Parents are playing also a role in this, which you'll see in the third angle of the triangular relationship in education. You must talk with them and see if the students are okay. Do they have the technology that they need in order to perform online learning? All right. If not, what can we do to help out with this? What can the school do? What can the town do? What can the city do to help with this? Okay. A dedicated study space. So where do our students study? Where do they learn? Big difference. Their bedroom? No, 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 no. I would not suggest a bedroom. But then you ask, why not? Let's think about this. My son has a desk in his room in which he studies what he has learned from school. So he goes to school, he thinks, he learns new concepts, he comes home, he sits at his desk, he does his homework. He reflects and reviews what he was taught. In quarantine, students are learning something new in that area. Why do I say they shouldn't? Because the same basic principles apply with students as it does with teachers. They have to have the right desk, the right seating, the right technology, the right lighting, books, pencils, etc. What happens though is if they are in their room, let's say the desk in which they study at, the distractions that are there are a lot more than sitting at the living room table, the kitchen table. Okay. This is a suggestion. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I've just been analyzing my son, my daughter, their friends, speaking to teachers. about their students and about their kids. And we found that if a child is learning something new in their bedroom, where they sleep, where they play, where they study, it's not the same. It's different. If you put them in a learning space and then they go and they study it, so after their online learning, they go to their room to study and reflect on it, that's different. Okay, that's different. Identify your daily learning objectives. Students need learning objectives to be given by their teachers for their lessons. These objectives, okay, are found in Publications course books at the beginning of every module or unit. So you have these objectives for the module. So out of, let's say, the 6, 7 lessons, one objective, 2 objectives will be met in each lesson. The same has to be done with online lesson plan. You have to have an objective for each day, and your students have to meet that objective. Prepare accordingly, because, and I use my kids as examples because why not? I mean, I've seen the mistakes made. You cannot have your students prepare for a lesson the night before. So you say, tomorrow have your English notebook for grammar, have your workbook, and have your student's book ready. But you're going to need a ruler, and you're going to need a scissor and colored pencils. Okay? Okay. His teacher, in the middle of a lesson, she was teaching math, and she immediately told her students, and I had my earphones on, so he was doing his lesson there while I was working on a presentation. And she said, go find a scale because we're going to weigh things. So my son is yelling at me, Dad, I need to get a scale. Dad, where's the scale? And I'm like, what scale? What do you mean? She's like, I need a scale. And I go, okay, go into the bedroom and get the scale. She was talking about a scale to measure when you bake from the kitchen. So I looked a little bit on his screen, and all the kids disappeared. It was chaos. Kids were bringing back a scale from their parents' bedrooms, from their bathrooms. Other kids were bringing scales from the kitchen. The teacher was trying to tell the directions differently. No, I meant to bring a little scale from the kitchen if you have one. How many minutes do you think she wasted from that lesson? Because she didn't have the right objective ready and the right preparation for her kids. How many minutes do you think that she wasted in that lesson? 12 minutes. It took 12 minutes for all those kids to come back and continue teaching. So if you're teaching a 30-minute class, a 40-minute class, and you lose 12 minutes, the rest of the class is finished. Time management, preparation, it's so important. Okay. Creating a focused study routine, routines and habits for our students. Routines and habits. How many of our students don't have routines or habits during quarantine? They had them pre-quarantine, right? But during quarantine, they all disappeared. Why? Who's at blame for this? Our students had this idea that they're on vacation. This is vacation time, that this isn't school. How many of your students have you heard them, or have they felt that this isn't school? That online learning isn't school? That they can stay up late? That they don't need to go to bed early because they don't need to get the bus the next morning? They don't need to be driven to school the next morning? I have all the time in the world. Procrastination. Procrastination is a big problem now because of quarantine. So their routines have been broken. And then what's happening is they're having, and not all of them, but a lot of students are having this I don't care attitude. The higher performing students aren't being challenged enough. The lower performing students need more help. But some of the lower performing students are finding their strength now. Why? Because they're able to focus by themselves on learning more instead of having that stress of being around their peers. So that's another interesting concept, okay, to think about. But thinking proactively, what's going to happen when our students go back to school? Are they going to have this mentality? I don't know. Students being afraid to ask for help. Students now, and I see this, in online learning, they need more help. And they're feeling like it's not okay not to know. Why? Because of their parents. Follow me with this. It is okay not to know. Parents need to be told this. And the next two slides are gonna, it links in, it hooks into the parents now. It's okay to make mistakes. Parents, now that they're with their kids all the time, are bombarding them with this false notion that they're not allowed to make mistakes. And they're doing their homework with them, they're fixing their homework, they're correcting them, they're not allowing them to make mistakes, then they have to. So my son would say, is this right? And I'd say, I guess so. And he goes, what do you mean you guess so? Don't you know? And I say, yes, I know. Well, then tell me. And I say, no. And he'll say, why? This is the exact conversation. And I said, because you have to make mistakes, but I don't want to, but you should. I've been telling you this. Now, before quarantine, he was okay with making mistakes. During quarantine, something has changed in him. He's afraid to make mistakes, not because I'm telling him don't make them. It's because of this interaction with his teacher, that the teacher gives the answers, corrects the mistakes, right? That the students say, no, that's incorrect. It's this, and continues. And students feel like, oh, I can't make the mistake. It's okay to fail. It's our first attempt in learning. This is going to be a little bit of a problem, so be ready for this. Okay, especially when we go back to school. Taking study breaks. When we're teaching online, we shouldn't teach more than 25 minutes. Sorry, but how many minutes do you teach for a lesson? How many minutes is one of your lessons? I'm just curious. Can you write it in the question box, please? How many minutes are one of your lessons in English? 50 minutes. 50-minute lesson. A 2-hour lesson? No. Wait a minute. 2 hours with a break, obviously. 60 minutes. 90 minutes. You have breaks in between these, yes? 90 minutes, 60 minutes, 1 hour. Tell me that you have a break. Paul, Mary, no break. Yes, break. No break. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's think of this for a moment, okay? After 25 minutes, they need a 5-minute treat yourself time. They need a 5-minute just change direction time, okay? Because if you are engaging them for 25 minutes straight, after a while, you've lost them. There's no way they're going to focus, okay? It is based on the age of the student, okay? Teenagers do have a little bit more of an attention span, but still, you're not Fortnite, you're not Roblox, you're not Minecraft, you're not a TikTok video. Well, you could be if you try, but you're none of those things. You see, it's really funny. Students can do those things I just said for 5 hours and not get tired. But to listen to us speak and to work on something and to be engaged in interacting with their friends online, that they can't do with English, right? So studying more doesn't mean that they get smarter. Learning more doesn't mean they're getting smarter. Learning efficiently and teaching efficiently and giving them that much needed time for a break is what will help them more. Because then if you don't do that, what you're going to see is they're going to start having this I hate it formula. And this was happening with my kids. After 2 months and more of online learning, he was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't stand this. I can't stand seeing my friends and I can't touch them. I can't play with them. I can't interact with them. Yes, okay, we laugh, but I'm tired of it. It was hurting him. Okay, I'm just giving you food for thought. All right, guys, have fun. Have fun with your classes online. With some webinars that I do, some I admit it, some of them are kind of dry, some of them are more exciting. That's how it is, you know. In your lessons, you can't expect every lesson to be 100%, you know, awesome. You could try, but it's normal. And now let's talk about our wonderful parents. Ah, parents. Have in mind that students have more views, a video of 40 minutes. Yeah, no, YouTubers, yes. That's why do you think TikTok videos, that's why TikTok is going off the charts. It's even going to be better, more popular than Instagram, because the TikTok videos are short spurts of I don't know, I guess happiness, I guess you could say, temporary happiness, or just, wow, look at that, aha. And then that's it, it's finished. Because that's the attention span of our kids, Mary. Short bursts of information, and that's it. And then they forget. It's that high for a moment, and then that's it. Let's go on to the next one. That's how our lessons are going to have to be. Drawn out a little bit, but with that concept. Because that's how their minds have been wired, rather rewired, because of technology. And that's one of the problems that I have with technology. And the other problem I have are parents. Because parents are not stepping up to the plate. Parents are saying that I'm not their teacher, it's not my job, it's your job, right? No, we all need to adjust, and we all need to do the best for our students, for our children. Where they study can be where they work, okay? I've done it with my kids. It's a little difficult, but it works, okay? We have to role model the behavior that they will mimic, all right? We as teachers, our role is very multifaceted. We're not just a teacher, we're a facilitator, we're their best friend, we're their mother, we're their father sometimes. Now, we're not that. We're not their mother or their father as we were in school. Now, their parents are with them 24/7. So they're being influenced by their parents. Okay? Influenced by their parents based on what their parents are listening to us do and say. You see, parents should be connecting with their kids. There's no better time. I will have time later. Why wait? Do it now. Students need this connection more than parents know, because they don't have it with us as teachers. Parents' roles have changed because of this unprecedented situation. Some parents have taken this opportunity, others have not. Play board games, tell jokes, riddles, build a fort, tell stories. Social emotional learning should have been strengthened on behalf of the parents towards their kids. Has it? I don't know. But this is something we have to prepare for when kids come back to school. Because if it hasn't been, there's going to be a lot of baggage, a lot of emotion coming into your classroom. Parents, speaking with other parents, a parent's social network is just as important as a child's social network. Both need nurturing. But what I have seen is that parents talk to other parents, belittling us, talking against us, talking against the system, talking against this approach to education. Why? Because they also didn't know it. Why? Because they're angry with it, because it has disrupted their routine, their habits. You see, guys, everything is connected. And if we don't take a moment to take a step back and to reflect and to be a little bit more understanding about the roles that we all play in education, it doesn't work any other way. Parents, man, distractions. What parents may not deem a distraction could be for the students and for us. How many times have you spoken and you see your students go like this? Or you ask a question and they go, because the parents are there listening, hovering. Or you ask a question and the student answers and then you hear, no, right? That's not fair. Parents should allow their students to use social media outlets, Messenger, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Depop, many, many more. Students need this during quarantine because there's no other outlet to talk with their friends, right? What we do have to be careful, and what parents do need to be careful with, and what we need to be careful with as teachers when they come back to school, and you can even use this as a lesson, is that to ensure their safety in using these apps. Find out what apps they are using, have them talk about it, and please ensure their safety. Okay, this is something we are accountable for. Let's take it upon ourselves and not leave it towards the parents because they'll just say, do whatever you want. The mind, body, and spirit, there has one more part, a fourth part regarding social emotional learning. That is the environment. Cleaning your room, chores, gardening, pets, plants, cooking, baking, get around to fixing things. How many students have been doing this during quarantine? So here's an idea. When you go back to school, yes, guidelines are going to change probably because of Rona-19. That being said, you can have chores, cleaning your classroom, gardening, having flowers, flower bed, plants, cooking lessons, baking lessons, doing this online with your students, asking them questions, getting to know them, getting them to be more accountable, and having them a little bit more, I would have to say, well-rounded regarding their social emotional well-being with mind, body, spirit, and environment. So put this into your, take a snap a picture of this, right? And keep this in mind. As long as you're doing online learning, keep these in mind. Use these as communicative topics that you can have your students reflect on and talk about. Parents, we all need breaks. We all need fun in our lives. It goes both ways. We need to have fun with our kids teaching. They need to have fun with their kids while in quarantine. Are they doing it? I don't know. You see, this triangular relationship all revolves around two things. What mindset are we going to have? Are we going to have a proactive mindset or a reactive mindset? What do you want to do? How do you want to approach education? I want us to look at education from a different perspective from now on. I want us to create routines and habits and agendas for our students so that they can be ready, excuse me, so that they can be ready for the skill sets that they need for their future because their future is changing exponentially. We have no idea what jobs are going to be there for them. We have no idea how the world is going to be. But what we do know are that the life skills, the soft skills, the people skills, that English as the universal language, that their social emotional health and well-being, that face-to-face learning is, I would have to say, the channel of education, and it cannot be replaced with online learning. That online learning is just an extension, okay? You cannot compare the two. There's no comparison to live learning with students and having them interact with one another live. All right. So be proactive, collaborate with your colleagues, see what's going to be the next step. Okay. Keep learning, keep sharing with your colleagues, keep inspiring. your future global agents of change. Remember the little things that can make a difference in your lessons. Remember that this triangular relationship in education needs to strengthen. Okay? Thank you very, very much for your time and your patience and your understanding and your dedication as educators. I look forward to seeing you, I think, the day after tomorrow, where we will be discussing soft skills and bridging the gap with soft skills. I will be talking about a few that are really, really important life skills for us and for our students. Stay safe, stay positive, tell your friends, share the knowledge, and I hope to see you back again in a couple of days. Okay, guys? So thank you very much. Virtual hug. And, oh, okay. Sometimes I feel like my students are not feeling secure while attending my online classes. I just try to keep them happy, interactive. Was just wondering if there's any solutions I can use. Look, that's important, Amar. Keeping them happy is very important. The relationship you have with your students, if they're happy, I have a very strong feeling that they are learning effectively. Okay, so your half of the battle is already won. If they're happy, that's great. Okay. Yes. Kahoot reviewing reading passages and vocabulary. Very good. Virtual hug. Yes, I use it all the time. I use it all the time. You know, kids miss us. Kids miss that physical, interaction. Kids miss hanging out with their friends. We got to remember this. Okay. I think that fear has, I'm finished. I'm just talking for a moment. I feel that fear has overpowered a lot of people and that we need to really remove that from our everyday lives. I'm not saying that it's not scary what happened or what is happening still, but I think that everything should be put into a perspective, a little bit more clear perspective of what we can do and how we can approach our students. Okay. Yes, listening to songs before starting a lesson helps a lot with our attitude. It certainly excites us and brings us up to a different level of readiness when teaching. So yes, songs are really important. It's hard, guys. I know you miss it. I miss it too. You think I talk to you guys. I can't see you, right? Because there's too many people. If I put all the videos, it doesn't work. I can't listen to you because if all your questions and comments were spoken, I would be distracted. And I miss visiting you guys. So I understand how students feel, right? I feel like I'm a student sometimes. And I understand how you feel as a teacher because you miss your little kids, You miss their giggles, you miss their laughs, you miss their quirkiness, you miss their mistakes, you miss their accents, you miss all this. Yes, you could say to me, yeah, but I hear them, I see them. It's not the same. It's not the same. All right. And they miss you. They miss you a lot. Do you talk about that? Do you talk about how they're feeling? We don't have time to talk about that, Greg, because we're teaching English. Well, that's why I suggested to give you that one-on-one time with your students. 1-on-2, do it. 1-on-3, group them into little groups and just have a little talk. Coffee time, tea time with the teacher, right? Where you sit back and you have the 3 faces and you just, it's more relaxing. Do it for 5 minutes, right? You do talk. That's good, Marcella. It's important, right? It's important. And it works, right, Marcella? Does it work? I'm sure it does. Yeah. Well, look, hey, look, someone just wrote. So I might be overwhelmed. We will be overwhelmed. We might cry. That's fine. Who said you can't cry? We laugh, we cry, we get angry. It's emotions. Do you know how many of your students inside are busting to cry? But they can't do it. One reason why, they don't know why. They don't know what this emotion is. They don't know why they feel like this. So they keep it bottled up deep inside, right? But something is bothering them. Why not? Let them just talk about it. Let it out, right? Markello, when you say you talk to them what, one-on-one or like one-on-two? How do you do that? Yeah, it's not only in Thailand, taking care of, uh, we're like their parents, right? One at a time. Excellent. Good job, Markello. We don't only teach our students, but we take care of them. Yeah, I know. I feel you. I know. That's what we do as teachers sometimes, right? And we did that more often because we had the face-to-face. So keep this in mind. All right, guys. Okay. So thank you very much. I got to get going because I have my son to help out with his studies. Stay safe, and I will see you in a couple of days with soft skills. Okay. Spread the word, and I look forward to seeing you guys. Okay. All right. Take care. Thank you for coming. Bye.